Hello everyone. أهلا بيكم في تعلم الإنجليزية. Learn English. So today we have a new topic and a new day. And as we have been doing for a while, we're talking about the bigger world around us. And today we're going to speak about something which is really serious. Today we're talking about crime and punishment. And this is the first part of speaking about crime and punishment. Let's look in detail what we're going to learn about today. So today we're going to learn vocabulary for crime and criminals. What words can we use to describe different types of crimes? And what words can we use to describe criminals? And we're also going to look at grammar, which is phrasal verbs to speak about crimes. And we will have skills, which is reading. We're going to read about crimes. So this is basically what we're looking at today. To start with, and as we used, we're going to start with a brain teaser. And if today's topic is about crime and criminals, we're going to have something related. So for our brain teaser today, we're going to look at a scene and we're going to think, is it a crime or is it murder? So we're going to act as detectives and we're going to see, did he kill himself or did the guy or did someone kill the guy? So basically, if you don't remember the meaning of a brain teaser, the brain teaser is an activity that makes you think more and you start activating the English part of your brain. So let's look at our brain teaser for now. We have this gentleman. He was found dead in his office and this is the crime scene. Let's take a look and let's explore evidence as detectives and let's see if we can figure out whether he killed himself or did somebody kill him. Let's take a look here. We have the man who's dead here and we have the gun on the floor. Here we have the pen and paper, we have the laptop, the coffee, and the window here is open and we have somebody who's running there. We have glass which is broken and we have a spot on the wall, and then we have the screen that's showing a drop in the revenues for his company or something. So what do you think it was? Was it a murder? If it was so, why is it a murder? Why did somebody kill him? How do you know it's a murder? Or is it a crime, like a murder, or did he kill himself? So if he killed himself, why? Why did he kill himself? So for me, if I look at this picture, both can work. I have evidence that this man committed suicide. He killed himself. And my evidence is that I have the splash or the spot on the wall here and the broken glass. And I have this screen. I can say that based on what I can see, this man knew that he lost all his money in the stock market. So the shares are going down. So he started drinking and then he broke the glass to the wall and he killed himself. This is my theory. So he killed himself because he lost all his money. Or there might be a different story. My point of view might be completely wrong because if you think about it, there is someone who's running in the background. So this person might have killed him. And we have evidence of violence. This chair which is on the floor, the broken glass, the stationery. So these are all signs of violence. They were fighting together. And if you look at it, this gun is on his right hand. But the laptop, the cup, and everything that he's using are on the left-hand side. So this man is left-handed. So if he's left-handed, how can he hold the gun with his right hand? So this is the other evidence that this is not a suicide, this is a crime. So he's left-handed. He couldn't have held the gun in this hand, and there's someone running in the background. So as detectives, we can explore all the options. So think about it. Think, what theory, what point of view do you believe in? Is it a suicide or is it a crime? I will let you think about it, come up with any theory. Anything would be acceptable as long as you have a good reason for it. And for now, let's move on to idioms of the day. And for those who don't remember the meaning of idiom, an idiom is an expression that's not literally connected to the words. It's an expression that has a different meaning from its words. And for today's idioms, we're going to look at idioms that are connected to crime, criminals, and punishment. So let's take a look at the idioms that we have. The first idiom that we have for today is called a highway robbery. So here we have highway and robbery. When we put them together, they give a total different meaning from the words. A highway robbery is an idiom that we use when something is very expensive or much more expensive than it should be. So you feel that you're paying too much money, so you feel that you're being robbed. For example, like 2 weeks ago, I went to buy a jacket. And I've seen this jacket on the internet. It was like £200. And when I went to the shop, I found the same exact jacket for £800. Because I liked it so much, I bought it. But when I think about it, I say to myself, or I tell myself, this is a highway robbery. Which means I paid too much for this for no reason. So this is called a highway robbery. Or you bought a car and this car is not worthy, so you pay too much money for it, and you know that this is too much money for it. So when you speak about it, this car is a highway robbery, which means you pay too much for nothing or for no reason. So this is the first idiom that we have. A highway robbery, which is not connected to the words, it's connected to buying something very expensive and it's not worthy. The second idiom that we have today is a steal. And a steal is also about shopping, and it's the opposite of a highway robbery. So we use the idiom a steal or the expression a steal when something is much cheaper to buy than you would expect. So when you get a very good deal for something, like, for example, you go shopping and you find a very nice pair of jeans. Everybody says that this pair of jeans are for £600 and you find it for 100. So you tell your mother, I must buy them. This is a steal. It's like, this is a very, very good deal. Or you want to buy a new mobile and you find an ad on the internet for a very good mobile for a very good price. You go to your father and tell him, let's buy this one. It's a steal, which means it's a very good deal for us. So a steal here means that something has a cheap price, less than anyone might expect or might think. So it's a steal. Now think about it. Have you ever bought something that was a highway robbery or a steal? Did you ever get a very good deal, or you bought something that was very expensive for no reason? These are the two expressions that we can speak about. So you can say it's a highway robbery or it's a steal based on the situation. And for the third idiom that we have for today, we have thick as thieves. And thick as thieves is an idiom that we use when people have a very close relationship together. So you and your best friend, if you would like to describe your relation, you can say, we are as thick as thieves, which means we are very close to each other. So it's usually describing people who are close or who have a very, very strong relationship. It's called as thick as thieves or thick as thieves. You can say my sister and her best friend are thick as thieves. Or me and Ahmed are thick as thieves, which means we are very close to each other. Or our relationship is very strong. By this, we have looked at our last idiom. So today we have looked at the first idiom, which is a highway robbery. And this idiom used the crime robbery, but it's not connected to it. It means something that is very expensive for no reason. And the second idiom, it used the crime steal, which is not connected to the meaning of steal. It's connected to having something as a very good deal or something with a very good price. And the third one has the criminal thief, which is not connected to thieves. It's connected to strong relations if I am very close to someone. By this, we have looked at the most important idioms or the most famous idioms that are connected to the words for crime and criminals. Now, let's look at our vocabulary part. Let's see the vocabulary that can help me speak about crimes. Now, let's start and let's take a look at the most important vocabulary related to crime. Okay, so to start with, we have the first crime as robbery. Robbery. So when we speak about robbery, this is stealing from people and from banks. And then we have theft or stealing. So this is basically stealing money and things. So now I have two different things. I have two different actions. I have the action of rob and the action of steal. So two different verbs, they have two different meanings. So if I am talking about my mobile was stolen or somebody stole my mobile. I'm talking about what he took with him. So if you're talking about something that you take with you and go, this is steal. So someone stole my mobile. Someone stole my bag, which means he took my bag and go. So this is the first thing, steal. And the second thing is rob. If I am talking about the bank, when a thief goes into the bank, he takes the bank and go? Actually, no. So in this case, this is called he robbed the bank. So you rob a bank, which means you take something from it, but you didn't take it itself. So if I speak about myself, I was robbed or stolen. I was robbed, which means they took something from me, but they did not take me. So this takes me back to the idea of my bag. I can say my bag was stolen or my bag was robbed. So somebody stole something from my bag or someone robbed my bag. The difference in meaning when I say my bag was stolen is that I don't have the bag anymore. Someone took the bag and go. If I say my bag was robbed, I have the bag, but what's inside the bag, maybe my wallet, my mobile or anything, is not there. So if I say my car is stolen, do I have a car or I don't? Think about it. Actually, when I say my car is stolen, this means no car. I don't have a car. Somebody took the car and go. But when I say my car is robbed, I do have the car. But maybe somebody took the air conditioner, maybe somebody took the cassette, somebody took something out of the car. So this is the difference between rob and steal. And this is the difference between the two crimes, robbery and theft or stealing. The next crime that we have is called burglary. Burglary. Burglary is basically stealing from houses or flats. If you remember the movie or the film Home Alone, we had the two criminals. The crime they did, they attacked the house. It's called burglary. Burglary. And we have mugging. Mugging. Mugging is when we have the thief in front of me, face to face, and they use a weapon to stop me and take my stuff. So I see him face to face. This is called mugging. So to mug someone is to stop him, and you attack him with a weapon and you take his stuff. It's called mugging. Mugging. So using violence to steal from somebody in public. And we have shoplifting. Shoplifting. Shoplifting from the word shop. So it's a crime that we do inside the shop. This is when somebody goes inside the shop and takes something and go out without paying for it. So stealing things from a shop while it's open. And then we have smuggling. Smuggling. Smuggling is basically taking things from a country to another illegally. So, for example, you have a mobile, and this mobile should go through custom duties. But you hide it and you get it inside the country. So, this is called smuggling. Or when we speak about those who have drugs, they hide it and they get it to a country. So this is called drug smuggling. So smuggling is getting something to a country illegally, something that is not allowed or in a way that the country doesn't know about it. And then we have kidnapping. Kidnapping. Kidnapping is taking someone by force, like when we have a baby and they take him from his family by force. This is called kidnapping. And then we have terrorism. Terrorism. Terrorism is basically using violence to attack a group of people, like bombing, or like when we have attacking politicians. So it's called terrorism. So causing people to feel scared. So it's called terrorism. And then we have looting. Looting. Looting is basically a crime that happens in the crisis, in the time of crisis, or in the crisis in general. For example, after a natural disaster, after war. So this crime is when people go to homes and houses and steal what's inside in the time of crisis. So this is called looting. Looting. And then we have vandalism. Vandalism. Vandalism is basically when you destroy someone's or public property. When you destroy something you don't personally own. For example, if you have the spray, the graffiti on the public walls, so you don't own the place, you're not allowed to draw anything on it. But you go and you use the spray and you write your name on the wall. This is called vandalism. Or maybe someone who's walking in the street and he finds a car and he breaks the mirror. He doesn't own it, so this is destroying other people's properties. It's called vandalism. Vandalism. So vandalism, destroying something that you don't personally own, especially public properties or somebody else's property. And then we have arson. Arson. Arson is the crime of setting fire. So this is setting fire with the intention of damaging the place. So maybe you don't like someone, or you have someone is your enemy or something, you have problems with somebody, so you go to his factory and you set it on fire. This is called arson. The name of the crime is arson. And then we have murder. Murder. So murder is killing someone intentionally. Killing someone and you know that you're going to kill that person. So if it's intention, it's murder. If it's by accident, it has a different name. It's called manslaughter. Manslaughter. So for example, I am driving my car and then I hit someone. I did not want to kill him. I did not want to hurt him. It happened by accident. So in this case, the crime, accident, I didn't want it, so it's called manslaughter. But if I planned for it, if I knew and I wanted to end his life, this is called murder. Murder. And then we have bribery. Bribery is basically giving somebody something valuable, maybe money or something else which is valuable, like presents or anything, just for him to make like your life easier, especially when it comes to business. So if you want to get a good deal and you get the employee extra money to get the good deal, or if you go to a governmental place and you want to finish faster, so you try to give the employee money, this is called bribery. So the crime, this is a crime called bribery. So giving people money that they do not deserve just to make things that, or to allow you to do things that you're not supposed to. And then we have fraud. Fraud. Fraud is basically a crime in which the criminal plays tricks to make the person give him the money. Like when we speak about, if you saw the film Catch Me If You Can, you just act like being a different person to convince people to do business with you. And you don't have business or anything. So I give you my money willingly, and you take it and fly. So this is called fraud. Fraud. And we have blackmail. Blackmail is basically when you get some sort of secret or hidden information about someone, and you start asking them for favors or money in return for not revealing their secrets. So for example, you knew that I have a problem at home and you come to me. If you don't give me money, I tell your manager about your problems. So for me to keep my secret safe, I give you money. This crime is called blackmailing. So it is a crime, and it's called blackmailing, whether it's a big crime or a small one. So it's the same thing when you do with your brother or sister, and you tell him or her, if you don't help me today, I will tell dad about what you did. This is blackmailing. So you're pushing someone to do something they don't want because you know some secrets about them. The next crime we have is called forgery. Forgery or falsification. So forgery or falsification is when we create documents or money that is not original. So for example, we have money. Money is only allowed for some, it's only allowed for some people to print money. Can we go and print money at home? Actually, we can't. So if we do this, this is a crime. So this crime is called forgery. Forgery. Or maybe I don't have a passport. So if you make a passport for me at your home, this is called forgery. So forgery, creating falsified documents. And then we have speeding, which is another crime. So speeding is driving above the speed limit. So exceeding the speed limit. In each and every place, there is a limit for speed based on the streets and the capacity and the safety of people. So if you exceed this limit, if you drive faster than the limit, it is a crime. And it's called speeding. By this, we have looked at the most common crimes that we can face in our life. Now let's have a deeper look at more details about criminals, verbs, and nouns. So we have looked at the most common vocabulary describing crimes. So now we're going to look deeper into that. We're going to see different formats. We're going to look at verbs, nouns, crime, and criminals. So if I am talking about the crime, the name of the criminal in this case would be called what? What noun would it be? What verb can we use? So let's take a look together. So here we have a list of crimes. So we have accomplice, arsonist, assassin, burglar, and deserter. So here, these are the criminals. So this criminal does what? What is the name of the crime and what is the verb for it? So the accomplice is basically a person who helps other person to commit a crime. So he did not do the crime, but he makes it easier for another person to make a crime. So this is the meaning. What does he do? He does this. And the noun is, or the crime, describing his crime is called aiding or abetting. So he's aiding in a crime, which means he's supporting a crime. And the verb is aid or abet. And then we have arsonist. If you remember, it's connected to a word that we have looked at. So the arsonist, what does he do? He sets fire to other people's properties illegally. And if you remember the name of the crime, so the arsonist commits what crime? He commits arson. Arson. So the crime is arson and the criminal is arsonist. And if we're talking about the verb will be commit arson. So we can say that Jack committed arson last week. Or we can say that this person, I'm talking about the person, he is an arsonist because we're talking about the criminal. Or arson should be heavily punished. So I'm talking about the crime. Arson should be heavily punished. So we have the criminal, we have the crime, and we have the action or the verb. For the next one, we have assassin. Assassin. Assassin is the person, and this person kills people for political reasons or in return for a payment. So assassin is similar to murderer. The only difference is that the murderer does this because he wants to. The assassin has no connection with the person he kills. He just takes money to kill him. And usually we use the word assassin in political murder, like what happened with John Kennedy in America, for example. So somebody killed him. This is called an assassin. So the person who killed him is a criminal. He is an assassin. And the crime is called assassination. So assassination. Assassination is the crime of killing someone in return for money or for political reasons. And the verb is assassinate. Assassinate. So assassin, assassination, assassinate. So if we're going to use the verb, for example, we can speak about John Kennedy. John Kennedy was assassinated long ago. So we're using the verb. Or the assassin, I'm talking about the criminal. The assassin is a person who kills for money. So we can use different formats of the same thing. I can use it as a crime, assassination. I can use it as a criminal, assassin. Or I can use it as a verb, assassinate. Okay, the next one, we have burglar. Burglar. A burglar is the person that, if you remember, he attacks or breaks into buildings to steal. So he attacks homes and houses. And the crime is called burglary. Burglary. So the criminal is a burglar, the crime, burglary. And the verb is burgle. So the burglar burgled a couple of houses before he was arrested. So we're talking about the criminal and the verb. Or I can use the crime and I can say burglary is very common in remote areas or faraway areas. So I'm talking about the crime itself. And then we have deserter. The deserter is the person who usually a member of the armed forces, but he leaves without permission, so he doesn't continue his service. So this is a crime, and the person who commits this crime is called a deserter. And the crime itself is called desertation. So the desertation is leaving the armed forces without permission or without any valid reason. And if we're talking about the verb is desert, so we can have this, the criminal, in a sentence. If we want to put it in a sentence, we can say deserters are not allowed to travel abroad. Or it's a very bad thing to have lots of desertation in the army. So this is using the crime itself. So we can use different forms. I can use the verb, I can use the noun, I can use the criminal, all would work. Let's have some more. Here we have drug dealer. So the drug dealer is the person who buys or sells drugs illegally. So he buys drugs and sells them, so this is called a drug dealer. So the crime is drug dealing and the verb is deal in drugs. So we have drug dealer, drug dealing, and deal in drugs. And then we have forger. If you remember, we used this word when we were talking about the vocabulary. And the forger is the person who makes fake money or fake document, like when we said he makes falsified documents. So remember the name of the crime? It's called forgery. Forgery. So forger is the person, forgery is the crime. And the verb is to forge, forge. So I can use the word forge, which is the verb, and I can say forging money can harm the economy. Forging money can harm the economy. So I used the verb. Or I can say nowadays we have a lot of forgers who are trying to falsificate documents. So now I'm talking about the criminal. So we have forger, the criminal, we have forgery, the crime, and we have forge, which is the verb. And here we have gangster, and this is the name of a person. The gangster is basically the member of a violent criminal gang, a group of people who are together to commit crimes. So this is called a gang. And the crime is gangsterism. So gangsterism is the name of the crime and the criminal is a gangster. I can say gangsters should be in jail for 50 years. And actually, there is no verb for it, because usually when we speak about gangsters, they commit different crimes. So if you want to use the verb commit crime, it would be fine. But we don't have a verb that is driven or taken from the same word. And then we have hijacker. Hijacker is from the word hijack, and this is the verb. So hijacker is the person who takes control of a vehicle, especially plane or ship, by force and diverts it. So he takes it to a different place. So we are on an airplane and somebody takes the plane by force and asks the pilot to go to a different place. The person is called hijacker. So what is the name of this crime? When you take a plane or when you take a ship for no right, without any right to do that, this is called hijack. So hijack, crime. Hijacker, criminal. So hijacking and the verb hijack. And then we have hooligan. Hooligan is when we have a person who commits crime and he is under the age of 18. So we're talking about a violent person under 18. So it's called a hooligan. And the crime is hooliganism. Hooliganism. And again, it doesn't have a verb because we're talking about committing any kind of crime. So this is basically for the person. He can forge money, he can deal in drugs, but the main point is that he is under the age of 18. So he's considered a youngster still. Okay, and the next one is a kidnapper. A kidnapper. And kidnapper is, if you remember, kidnapping, this is the crime. So the kidnapper is the criminal who takes people away by force and demand money for it. Like when we said that babies who are kidnapped, they are taken by force, so this is called kidnapping, and this is the name of the crime. So the crime is kidnapping, and the verb kidnap. So I can say last week in the news, I read about a kid who was kidnapped from his family. So now I use the verb. Or I can say kidnapping. Kidnapping is a serious crime nowadays that has to be dealt with. Let's take a look here. We have more for them. So we have a mugger. A mugger. So the mugger, if you remember the problem or if you remember the crime, it was called mugging. Mugging. So mugging is when I attack and rob people in public and by force or after threatening them with a weapon. So this is face-to-face crime. He sees me, he doesn't take the things behind my back. It's face-to-face and he asks me to give him my stuff. So the person is called mugger. And the crime, if you remember, is mugging. So can you guess the verb? It's to mug. Mug. And it's similar to the word mug that we drink in. Same spelling, same pronunciation, but it has a different meaning. And then we have murderer. Murderer. So murderer, if you remember, deliberately or intentionally killing another person. So when we kill someone and we know it is happening, it's called murderer. And the crime is murder. Murder. And the verb, we can say murder or kill. Both are the same. But if we're talking about the word that is connected to the criminal, it's murder. So the crime is murder and the verb is murder. And then we have the criminal is called offender. Offender. And an offender is anybody who breaks any law. So if we're talking about all the criminals, they are all offenders. So the offender is the person who breaks the law by doing anything wrong. Even if we're talking about speed driving. So this is called an offender. So the crime is committing an offense. So if we're talking about the name of the crime, it's committing an offense. And the verb is offend. Offend. And then we have pickpocket. Pickpocket. So the pickpocket, and sometimes we call it pickpocketer. The pickpocket or the pickpocketer is the person who takes something off your pocket, something from you, without you seeing him. So steals money and etc. from people's pockets, like when somebody is on the bus and they take his wallet without he feeling it. So it's called pickpocket. The crime is pickpocketing. Pickpocketing. And if we're talking about the verb, it is the same, pickpocket. The next one is a robber. A robber is somebody who steals money using force or threat. So when you take money of banks or from people, it's called a robber. If you remember the crime, it was called robbery. Robbery. And when we talk about the verb, it is to rob someone. So I can say, they robbed the bank. They robbed me. I got robbed. I'm talking about the verb. Or I heard about the crime, which is I heard about the robbery that happened in San Francisco last week, for example. And then the criminal is a robber. And then we have shoplifter. Shoplifter. And as we said, from the word shop, these are people who take stuff or take goods from a shop without paying its money. And the crime, if we're talking about the crime, it's called shoplifting. And the verb is shoplift. So the criminal is shoplifter, the crime shoplifting, and the verb is shoplift. Have you noticed something related to crimes? All crimes, or most of the crimes, they end in ing. So mugging, pickpocketing, shoplifting, most of the crimes usually end in ing. And here we have terrorist. Terrorist, if you remember the crime, it was called terrorism, yes, and terrorist is using violence for political reasons to cause horror to the street. So scaring people in the streets for political reasons. So this is called terrorism. The crime is terrorism. And the verb is commit terrorism or to terrorize. Terrorize or commit terrorism. And for the next one, we have a thief. A thief is the person who steals something without anybody seeing him. So the main idea, the difference, or the main idea behind thief and mugger, the mugger, you see him eye to eye. But the thief, you don't see him. He takes your stuff without you seeing him. So if we're talking about the crime is called theft. And actually, we don't have a verb for it. So it's steal, basically. So we don't have a verb derived from the word. And then we have a traitor. A traitor. The traitor is the person who betrays his country. So if we're talking about a spy, a person who knows important or valuable secrets about his country, and he goes tell it to a different country, so this is called a traitor. So this criminal is called traitor. Traitor. So the crime is called treachery. Treachery. So the person is a traitor and the crime is treachery. Treachery. And the verb is betray, which is not derived from the word. So we usually say he betrays his country, he did so. So traitor, treachery. And then we have a vandal. A vandal, if you remember the word vandal, it sounds similar to the word vandalism. Remember the meaning of vandalism? So vandalism is when you deliberately destroy or damage public property or other people's properties. So if we're talking about using force or using any kind of tools to destroy something that you don't own, this is called, the crime is called vandalism. Vandalism. So this is the name of the crime. So what about the person? The person is a vandal. So we can say vandals shouldn't go to jail. Vandals shouldn't go to jails. Or we can say that vandals are not committing a serious crime. Or vandals should be heavily punished. So now I'm talking about the verb. I'm talking about the person, the criminal. And if I talk about the verb, it's vandalize. Vandalize. So we can say it's not okay to vandalize the walls in the streets. It's not okay to vandalize other people's properties. So vandalize means damage or destroy. And the criminal here is called vandal, and the crime vandalism. So vandal, vandalism, vandalize. By this, we have looked at all the information that might be connected to crime. We've seen how we speak about the criminal, what verbs we can use, and we've also looked at the names of these crimes. Let's now do some practice for that. So here we have a criminal is a person who has the law. Let's see what would be the best verb to use here. A criminal is a person who has committed the law, offended the law, or broken the law. Here we're talking about broken. So the collocation that we usually use when we speak about law, it's break. So a criminal is a person who has broken the law. And for the second one, criminals can also be called lawbreakers or lawyers, offenders, or baddies. So we used another word for criminals, if you remember. So was it a lawyer, an offender, or a baddie? So exactly, an offender. Anybody who breaks the law is offender. What can we call someone who steals? The person who steals is a thief, a theft, or a thief. Which one is it? So it's a thief because we're talking about the criminal. If we're talking about the crime, it's theft. And we have nothing called thief like this. It's used usually, it's used for plural and we add s. Tommy can bump into someone and take their wallet without their knowing. What is he? Taking the wallet without the person feeling it. So this is a burglar, a pickpocketer, or a mugger. Which one is it? If you remember, burglar is the person who breaks into houses. And the mugger, this is face-to-face after they threaten you. And we have a pickpocketer is the person who steals something off your pocket without you feeling it. Okay, so for the next one. Betsy had no money to buy food for her kids, so she took it from the supermarket without paying. What was her crime? So her crime is kidnapping, her crime is being poor, or her crime is shoplifting. What was the name of the crime? So this is shoplifting. So by this, we have looked at the first part for the episode in which we speak about crime and punishment. We will continue speaking about this and we will look deeper how we can speak about punishment, and we will have more practice for reading and for phrasal verbs related to crime and punishment. What we have talked about today is idioms for crime or idioms that are related to words used in crimes. And we have also looked at vocabulary for describing crimes. We have looked at vocabulary for describing criminals. And we have also taken a look at how to use different forms, the noun and the verb. By this, we have reached the end of our episode. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Bye-bye.